I'm Joe Catalano with an AM Quincy news update for Thursday, January 11th. An armed robbery at an overnight drugstore in Quincy. Police say a man leaped over the pharmacy counter at the 24-hour CVS on Southern Artery at about 3:45 this morning, grabbed some cash and 14 different types of pills, then fled on foot. Police quickly captured 52-year-old John Gretchen as he tried to get into a car parked across the street. Gretchen faces charges that include armed robbery while masked and resisting arrest. Police say Gretchen gives an address in Nahant. However, they say his wife lives in Dorchester, and the car reportedly belongs to his mother. Gretchen is being held for arraignment today in Quincy District Court. No one was hurt in the robbery and no weapons were shown. About $60 in cash and some pills were recovered. There are at least 3 events in Quincy to mark the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday on Monday. After a 3-year hiatus, the annual MLK Breakfast is returning. Quincy Mayor Thomas Koch has announced that the breakfast will be held Monday at 9 a.m. in the cafeteria of Quincy High School. Quincy Ward 3 Councilor and recently elected City Council President Ian Kane will be the special guest speaker. All are welcome to attend. Also Monday, members of the Quincy Democratic City Committee will be preparing bagged lunches for the homeless at the Koch Recreation Complex from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Volunteers are needed to prepare and deliver the lunches for Father Bill's and Mainspring shelters. And the Quincy Stand Out for Black Lives Matter movement and the United First Parish Church in Quincy Center will host an outdoor event at the church on Monday from 2 to 3:30, reflecting on Dr. King's words and enjoying some music. The public is invited to all 3 events. And then next Wednesday, the Thomas Crane Library in Quincy Center will present a screening of the film Selma about the civil rights movement. The movie will be shown from 6 to 8 p.m. in the community meeting room. It is free and all are welcome. More than 500 new trees have been planted across Quincy. The Department of Natural Resources says the city recently completed the tree planting program, adding trees along streets, parks, and other public places. Officials say they made sure that the right trees were planted in the right locations to guarantee that they will be healthy and non-intrusive. Soil conditions, overhead utilities, and the planting area were all reviewed before the new trees were planted. The new trees include Japanese lilacs, sweet gum, Jefferson elm, and honey locust. The tree contractor is also required to water and care for the new trees for 2 years. This was the 4th consecutive year that Quincy planted more than 500 new trees. Residents who'd like a tree in front of their property can request one through the Department of Natural Resources. Emergency crews responded yesterday after part of a vacant building collapsed in Whitman. The Whitman Fire Department said in a statement authorities were first called to the one-story building at 365 South Avenue at about 9:30 a.m. Once on the scene, the department said firefighters found a portion of the building's front wall had fallen over. There were no reported injuries, and an attached 2-story building was not damaged. Officials said firefighters worked to secure the building before clearing the scene at about 10:15 a.m. National Grid and Whitman's building inspector had been notified yesterday afternoon. Whitman fire officials shared photos of the collapse scene showing debris spilled around the area where a wall once stood. Although authorities said the cause of the collapse remained under investigation, the incident happened as communities across New England were dealing with flooding and other damage from stormy weather Tuesday night and yesterday morning. Police say they've arrested a suspect in connection with the robbery of a United States Postal Service mail carrier in Randolph that happened 2 days after Christmas. 20-year-old Vashid Mashmasarmi from Brockton was arrested Tuesday on charges of unarmed robbery, possession of a burglarious tool, and receiving stolen property. Randolph Police Chief Anthony Marag said that at about 10:20 a.m. on Tuesday, detectives from the Randolph and Brockton Police Departments, along with a state trooper, executed a search warrant on a black Acura TL sedan in the parking lot of a plaza on North Main Street in Brockton. Marag says the search warrant was connected to a December 27th robbery during which a USPS worker was physically assaulted at the Rosemont Square apartment complex by two masked men who were dressed in all black. The postal carrier suffered injuries to his ribs and side as a result of the robbery, and police say the assailant stole the Arrow key, a master key for blue mailboxes in a particular area. Marag said on Tuesday the Acura police were authorized to set a search warrant on had just pulled into the plaza and backed into a parking space alongside the building, facing an unoccupied postal vehicle. As the detectives and trooper moved toward the Acura, the driver of the car, later identified as a 20-year-old Brockton resident Sol Gagnon, failed to comply with the officer's commands and was found to be reaching toward his waistband. Officers took Gagnon to the ground. While searching his person, found him to be in possession of a .40 caliber Glock with a loaded high-capacity magazine and a round in the chamber. Gagnon was taken into custody and charged by Brockton police with unlawfully carrying a firearm, possession of a large-capacity magazine, unlawful possession of ammunition, and resisting arrest. He was arraigned yesterday in Brockton District Court. Mush Masarmi, the registered owner of the Acura, then arrived at the scene. Officers executed a search warrant on him and his vehicle. Marag says that Mush Masarmi was found to be in possession of an Arrow key that was taken during that December 27th robbery. He was also taken into custody by Randolph police and arraigned yesterday in Quincy District Court. The Randolph Police and U.S. Postal Inspection Service continue to investigate that case. Other news this morning: for the second straight lawmaking term, the House unanimously approving legislation aimed at closing a loophole that makes Massachusetts one of the only states without a clear, enforceable ban on revenge porn. Representatives voted 151 to nothing yesterday to pass a revised bill that would deem it criminal harassment to share sexually explicit images or videos of someone without their consent, a practice that's become increasingly common in the digital age. The legislation also crafts a new legal framework for sexting by teenagers, and at a change from the version the House approved 2 years ago, adds coercive control to the definition of abuse in a state law. Supporters have been pressing policymakers for years to crack down on revenge porn, warning that it subjects victims, many of whom are women, to harrowing economic and emotional damage. Senators waited until the final days of the 2022 session to take up the previous House-approved bill, leaving too little time to iron out differences before that term ended. Check of business news this morning, and stocks soared yesterday. The Dow shot up 170 points. The Nasdaq added 111, and the S&P rose 26. Global stocks were also higher. The dollar slipped, the euro fell, and oil at $72 a barrel. Sports: Celtics beat Minnesota 127-120 in overtime. They will take on the Bucks tonight at 7:30 in Milwaukee. And the Bruins are in Vegas at 10 against the Golden Knights. Forecast from the National Weather Service today: mix of clouds and sun, high of 42 degrees. Clear tonight, low 34. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, high 44 degrees, and then another wind and rainstorm on Saturday, but it'll be mild again. High Saturday into the mid-50s. Sunshine returns on Sunday. It'll be breezy. The high Sunday, 36 degrees. For the boater today, waves about 2 feet. The west wind at 15 to 20 right now, becoming southwest at 10 to 15 with 25-mile-per-hour gusts. And a high tide coming up right before 11 o'clock this morning. Sun rising at 7:11, sets at 4:31. Traffic note: the Fore River Bridge is scheduled to open today and tomorrow at 9:15 a.m. I'm Joe Catalano with an AM Quincy news update for Thursday, January 11th.